So Democratic voters, snap out of it. These guys are obvious liars. Fire them all. Fire them all. And if you don't, okay, then keep losing to buffoons, to obvious con men like Donald Trump. Keep losing and losing and losing and never figuring it out. Here, I solved it for you. I figured it out. It's a goddamn corruption. All the stupid donor money, all it's ever done is lead to more losses.
Begin scene, interior, election night. Cenk Uyghur melts down in front of a green screen, the Capitol building superimposed on it, up in flames, a microcosm of what's happening in Cenk's own heart. When I saw this clip and the other clips I'm gonna show you, it gave me chills, and I knew I needed to make a video about it. Cenk is a man I strongly disagree with on almost everything, but you just gotta give the man credit for his passion. And also, in this case, he actually happens to be completely and utterly right. Since Trump won the 2024 election, I've been tracking Cenk, following his every move, documenting his point of view, and collecting various clips, which I will now show you, dear viewer, because Cenk is one of the few leftists I've seen who has correctly identified why the Democrats actually lost, correctly predicted what the media spin would be on why they thought they lost, and what actually needs to be done so that Democrats can start taking W's instead of L's. So join me on this journey into the dark recesses of Cenk's mind and discover with me, to our collective horror, that Cenk is actually based. But let's start at the beginning. A dead-eyed Cenk stares blankly into a camera, letting the audience know that Trump will be president for 4 more years, and if the Lincoln Project is right, a lot longer than that.
Trump won.
But I thought you could only be president 2 times.
Not anymore.
But I'm already getting distracted. Back to Cenk.
NBC News, ABC News, and CNN have all called Pennsylvania for Donald Trump. This election is over. Donald Trump is going to be the 47th president of the United States, and he has won re-election.
Cenk is in shock, so his anger hasn't fully manifested itself yet, but oh, it will. He immediately places the blame squarely where it belongs, at the feet of the Democrat Party.
The most important part of this is the Democratic leadership, the Democratic Party, the establishment Democrats, they did this to you. They lost to that buffoon twice. So don't tell me how bad Donald Trump is. Don't tell me how crazy Donald Trump is if you lost to him twice. So because what you're doing is you're telling on yourself. You're saying, I'm so incompetent that I couldn't beat Donald Trump, who barely breaks double digits in IQ, who says the most outrageous, ridiculous things, and you couldn't beat him.
This is peak self-awareness and humility. The worse Trump is, the more dictatorial and malicious and evil and narcissistic and stupid the left paints him, it makes his landslide victory all the more palpable. If he is the evil, malignant, failed businessman, bumbling con artist, sociopath the left thinks he is, then that's an embarrassing defeat. The more effete Trump is, the more defeated the Democrat Party is. And they were defeated by a lot, as I'm sure you know. The Republicans won the presidency, they won the Senate, and they won the House. I mean, look at this map. I'm seeing more red than Cenk was seeing on election night, and he saw a lot of red. Trump won more votes than any Republican president has ever won in the history of the United States. And the last time a Republican even won the popular vote was in 2004 when George Bush beat John Kerry. By the way, here's a clip of John Kerry in case you're a Zoomer or non-American. He wasn't exactly a hard candidate to beat.
None of the most important countries which must build a new world order have had any experience with the multi-state system that is emerging. Never before has a new world order had to be assembled from so many different perceptions.
Side note, I like that YouTube put a disclaimer on this clip calling the New World Order a conspiracy theory when this is a video of John Kerry literally talking about the New World Order in the early aughts. But I'm getting distracted again, a weakness of mine, a chink in my armor, if you will. By the way, please subscribe to this video. I want to hit 1,000 subs. Thank you. Much love. Back to you, Cenk.
This Democratic leadership knows nothing. They know nothing at all other than donors, donors, please give us money. We'll do anything for you. We'll do anything. I'm begging you. And so you did. Kamala Harris, you did just like Hillary Clinton did. You way outraised Donald Trump. You thought money was the answer. What happened? They lost track of the ends. They just got stuck on the means.
This is the truth. The DNC thought they could steamroll Kamala onto the ballot, eschewing any primary process, throw a bunch of donor money at her, and think that the American people would love her. Well, guess what? They didn't. The truth was, and still is, that Kamala Harris is not a likable nor relatable candidate. Kamala was likely chosen in large part because the campaign funds that were already earmarked for Biden couldn't be directly transferred to another nominee under the Federal Election Commission's regulations, but could be directly transferred to Kamala because she ran on the same ticket as him in 2020. Otherwise, the funds would have to go back to the DNC or a super PAC, and they could just be used for like advertising for whoever the nominee would end up being. But they wanted that sweet, sweet donor money, and Biden's campaign fundraising absolutely dwarfed every other politician's campaign fundraising efforts in all of US history. And as Politico reported, there was almost $100 million left over in the Biden war chest when Harris took charge. And of course, after she broke the historical record for the most campaign money raised in a quarter, she had over $1 billion, and according to the AP, was still urgently appealing for more donor money. And what did she do with all that money? Let's ask Cenk.
So money was supposed to be a means to an end, which is winning. But they're not even bothering to win anymore. That was the most boring, terrible campaign I've ever seen by Kamala Harris. She spent some portion of the campaign hiding out in a basement. They put Tim Walz nearly permanent basement status. They said that Joe Biden had these amazing legislative accomplishments. They never ran on him.
This is unequivocally the truth. She dodged interviews for the first month plus of being the nominee, ran on almost no policies, did a few scripted interviews with softball questions, did a debate, which she performed well in, I'll give her that, then did what? 8 minutes on the Call Her Daddy podcast where they talked about nothing but abortion. She refused to go on the most popular podcast in the world because then she'd have to act like a human being for more than 10 minutes, God forbid. And oh, let's not forget that absolutely hilarious appearance on SNL, which ended up being an FCC violation. Oops.
The American people want to stop the chaos
and end the drama
with a cool new stepmama.
Riveting stuff.
You know that old saying about how insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result? So how crazy are we if we just go back to the Joe Bidens, the Nancy Pelosi's, the Chuck Schumers, the Kamala Harris's, the Hillary Clintons, the same dumbass people who have been taking donor money, taking it and delivering no results?
There's no disagreeing with this. The only good thing about Biden in 2020 was that he wasn't Trump, and he ran on that fact. And the only good thing about Harris in 2024 was that she also wasn't Trump, and she ran on that fact. The difference here is Harris is a far more unlikable candidate than Biden, and this time, this dog was never gonna hunt. And Democrats need to admit this. They've been picking establishment Democrats that are not likable and are not running on policies people actually want. They chase out the populists from the party like Bernie Sanders, pictured here having a stroke, and Andrew Yang, pictured here being just adorable. Look at that little guy. They ostracize people like Tulsi Gabbard, pictured here making me want to act up, and they instead run the lizard person in a nice pantsuit. Side note, I googled pantsuit while writing this part of the video because, I wasn't sure if I had the right word, and this is the example image on the Wikipedia page. Hillary Rodham Clinton in her lizard flesh rocking a girl boss royal blue pantsuit. What a femme fatale. Why are these the Democrat candidates? I'm a conservative, and I would have voted for Tulsi Gabbard or Andrew Yang, and I can't be the only one who could be swayed by an actual real human being running on a Democrat ticket as opposed to the corpos they consistently run.
The Democrats have enormously popular economic policies, but they never actually pass them. They don't even try to pass them. And so then when they don't deliver for the voters, they go, him, it was their fault. And I guarantee you after this election, do you think that Kamala Harris and the rest are going to learn their lesson? There's no chance of that. Instead, they will blame their voters first. They'll talk about, the Arabs and the Muslims, they were the problems in Michigan. They'll talk about young black men didn't turn out. Women should have turned out more. We Latinos, how dare they go with a racist Donald Trump? And then they'll say, the country's too racist, the country's too sexist.
Yep, nail on the head. That's exactly what we're seeing, and we're seeing so much confusion about why more women voted for Trump than last time, why more black people did, why more Latinos did, why more urban dwelling people did, why more college educated people did, why more young people did, and the answer can't possibly be on the candidates. No, the answer has to be the American people. MSN, Trump just won the most racist campaign in history and won. Politico, Democratic women see a country that is not ready for a woman president. CNN, anyone who thinks sexism and racism didn't play a part in this is wrong. How about this? Run better candidates next time. Don't just expect that intersectional brownie points will be enough to win elections.
I mean, look, I've said this a million times, but I'm gonna say it one more time here because it's important that you know this. If paid family leave's at 84%, if any bill's at 84%, and you can't pass it, that means you are a miserable failure of a politician. Guys, it's not that they're miserable failures of politicians, it's that they don't want to pass them. That's why they don't propose them, that's why they don't fight for them, and that's why when you're not looking, they take them out of the bills. They're crooks, they're corrupt.
This is something I've noticed that I just don't understand. Take, for example, Canada. You will hardly meet any Canadian who thinks that Canadian laws are being enforced at the proper rate and the punishments for things like violent crime are strict enough. You can't find them, and if you do, it'll be like 10 Antifa members sitting in a Chaz-adjacent tent city in Vancouver's downtown east side. Like they just don't exist. Everyone wants stricter punishments for violent crimes. Everyone wants laws to be enforced, and if we look at stats from the Canadian government's own website, 79% of all Canadians thought sentences were too lenient. But what's that? This was back in 1998, and what direction did sentencing and enforcing go? Why? You think if a clear majority of a democratic country wants something done, it would happen, but that's not the case, which means either a lot of our politicians are incompetent, or, as Cenk thinks, they're crooks and they're corrupt.
But at the end, they won't deliver anything for you. And then when the voters say, well, I guess I'll go for the buffoon who's unhinged because at least he's promising something, and you guys are promising nothing, right? Well, you can catch feelings over that, but that's what happened. And so I didn't lose 2 elections in a row to Donald Trump. The geniuses in the Democratic leadership did.
Exactly. Cenk, like his favorite country Israel, is just dropping truth bomb after truth bomb. Trump was out there talking about the future of the country, and he was making clear promises. Whether or not they're good promises or not, that's up to you, dear viewer, to decide. But he was offering something. He was offering a return to the good old days, a rebuke of the woke identity politics people have become so exasperated with, cleaning up the immigration crisis, fixing the economic woes that plague us. So what could the Dems have done, Cenk?
There's always a feeling at the end of an election when Democrats lose of like, well, I guess there was nothing we could have done. No, that's not remotely true. You could have actually run a real campaign. So what's a real campaign? So she put out some good things in the beginning and we were excited about it. She had some economic populist policies about housing and price gouging, et cetera. She skyrockets, takes a big leap, right? And at that point, she then turns around and goes and sends Mark Cuban all over CNBC to go, remember, I love business interests. All the CEOs are on my side. Dick Cheney's on my side. Liz Cheney's on my side. Every CEO's on my side. Oh my God, I love corporations. Don't worry, I'm not gonna do the price gouging plan. I'm not gonna do it at all. She's never gonna do the price gouging plan. They swear up and down on CNBC and all over cable news. Well, then she lost her lead. Why do you think you're getting the lead? Why do you think you lost the lead? No, they'll never figure it out. Never figure it out.
Now, I don't know. Was this what happened? Was it the bending of the knee to the corporate overlords that caused Kamala's momentum to fizzle out? I can't speculate. I think the new hype was just that. A new candidate who could actually string together sentences and could maybe stand a chance against Trump. But after months on the campaign trail, the illusion can only carry itself so far. So what do the people want?
These Democratic leaders are simpletons. They're servants of the donor class. So they go in there, they're like, oh, donor, give me money, please. And I made an ad. I'm Kamala Harris, I'm full of joy. Okay, well, what did that get you? And they say, oh, Jake, you're too angry. Too angry? What? You think, does Donald Trump look like he's kind? Does he look like he's in a good mood? I mean, no, people want some sort of reaction from their politicians. They want them to represent them, to fight for them. But that has never occurred to a Democrat outside of Bernie Sanders, and probably we never will.
Yeah, and this was the miracle of Trump, that somehow he seemed relatable despite being a celebrity New York billionaire philanderer. He did Theo Vaughn, he streamed with Aiden Ross, he went on Logan Paul's podcast, and of course he did Joe Rogan, which racked up a whopping 51 million views, despite suspiciously never making it onto YouTube's trending page. And yes, Cat of Truth 1044, you are right. All of these things are a strong indicator that podcasts are officially more important than traditional media. Trump also has undeniable energy at his rallies. This is just true, and every liberal or centrist I've seen attend one has said the same thing. Somehow, despite Donald Trump clearly not being anything resembling the average American, he can come across as one of us, and Harris just can't do that.
So look, I have no interest in listening to a single Democratic politician ever again. They can go kiss my ass, they can do whatever they want, and we never listen to them anyway, and they hate us because we're right and they're wrong. They're always wrong, and they hate us for being right, okay?
Yeah, look what happened to Bernie Sanders. Look what happened to Andrew Yang. The media is not friendly to these types of politicians, and they don't like people like Cenk. They despise alternative media, right-wing and left-wing.
So, but they're not gonna learn. You have to beat them in a primary, that's your only hope. And so if you say it's super hard to beat them in a primary because of the lying sons of bitches on mainstream media who will smear you to no end, who will fight harder against progressives and populists than Republicans or Donald Trump or anyone else, well, brothers and sisters, nobody said life was fair. So we gotta go fight that mainstream media. We gotta destroy that mainstream media that is filled with lies on top of lies about how the politicians are so honest and the donors have no control over policy. They have 100% control over policy. Everyone in mainstream media is a liar who goes, oh, well, here's a bill. Well, I'm not gonna talk about the donors at all. Oh, I think they're having an ideological debate. Oh, look at that. The donor class won the ideological debate again, but I won't call them the donor class. I won't tell you that it's corporate Republicans and corporate Democrats that are playing good cop and bad cop against you the entire time.
The good news is the left-wing mainstream media is being destroyed. Ratings have absolutely been plummeting since the election, as people just seem to be utterly disillusioned with the Democratic establishment. MSN has seen a 38% drop, CNN a 27% drop, and Fox News, on the other hand, a 41% increase. And this goes for anyone who's peddling left-wing establishment takes. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who removed her pronouns from her Twitter recently, by the way. Identity politics not working anymore, AOC? Well, she has been hemorrhaging followers recently, and so has Kamala Harris's Twitter, and so has the DNC's Twitter, and many more. Now, maybe you'll say, oh, some percent of leftists are leaving Twitter and migrating to BlueStacks, and that could be true for a part, but this trend extends far beyond Twitter. Sam Seder's views are down, and David Pakman made an entire video complaining about how he's seeing substantial drop in viewership and paid subscriptions, and he said he talked to all of his left-wing media friends, and they're all noticing the same drop in paid subscribers. So something needs to change in the left-wing media sphere. Cenk, what can leftists do?
So these Democratic leaders are the most useless people on earth. If they're not all fired, the Democratic Party is out of its mind. So as the voters, you have to understand, those guys have a vested interest in protecting their own ass and protecting their money and their privilege and their status. You need to fire them. They're not gonna fire themselves. You think Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, Kamala Harris, and all these people go, oh yeah, I got Jamie Harrison at DNC. Oh yeah, I guess we were the problem. You think the Democratic consultant class that have been robbing you blind this entire time is gonna go, oh, I guess we were the problem. No, you have to fire them. So the next time that some son of a bitch on MSNBC or in the Democratic Party tells you, oh no, be a good boy and girl, be civil, and vote for Democratic leaders. They know what they're doing. Those are the same goddamn liars that told you that Joe Biden was totally fine, that he was young and he was dynamic behind the scenes, and it wasn't a problem at all. At that point, he was down 8 points nationally. He was getting slaughtered. He was down by 18 in Iowa, and I could go on and on.
Yeah, exactly. The same people who maintained over and over again that Joe Biden was mentally competent or that Trump had the same level of cognitive decline as Biden were just lying. And this includes alternative media people like Harry and Destiny, who both consistently ran defense for Biden, claiming he was competent and shouldn't step down, and both fought with Piers Morgan on this very topic. And now we get into peak Cenk rage, and I'm just gonna let him cook for a few seconds.
They've been lying to you the whole time. If you're on the left, you're a Democratic voter. Wakey, wakey. I need to wake you up out of the hypnosis that you're in, that Morning Joe and The View and all of mainstream media has put you in. They're lying to you. Why do you think they keep losing? Do you think they keep telling you how smart they are and how they're gonna deliver you victories? And all they ever do is deliver loss after loss after loss. So Democratic voters, snap out of it. These guys are obvious liars. Fire them all. Fire them all. And if you don't, Okay, then keep losing to buffoons, to obvious con men like Donald Trump. Keep losing and losing and losing and never figuring it out. Here, I solved it for you. I figured it out. It's a goddamn corruption. All the stupid donor money, all it's ever done is lead to more losses. So if you don't fire them, you have no one to blame but yourself. Young Turks will be back.
How's that for a sign-off? Jesus. But Cenk's ire didn't stop there, and it continued onto Piers Morgan's show later, where he found himself going toe-to-toe with none other than Allan Lichtman, the master of the keys himself. If you don't know this guy, he has a foolproof way to predict elections, using what he calls the keys. Using this advanced analysis system of 13 true or false statements, he says he can tell who will win any given US election, except when he gets it wrong, and then he just changes the goalpost a bit so he's actually right. But that's not fully fair. He has actually done a good job of predicting elections, I'll give him that. But his analysis this time, to me, seemed mental, and Cenk shows no mercy against him.
I told him his theories about the keys were absurd. I was right, he was wrong. I said he'd lose his keys.
No, you were
couldn't
not
find
right,
him before
and
the
I was
election.
not wrong, and that's a cheap shot, and I won't stand for it.
Well, who won, brother?
You should not be taking cheap shots. I've only been a professor for 51 years.
On this program, I've never been able to finish a thought.
How many books have you published? No, because you're personally attacking me again. Say whatever you want, but I'm not going to stand for
brother, you got it wrong.
Say
you were
whatever you want.
preposterously and stupidly wrong.
And Cenk was right. Lichtman was simply wrong, and it's no wonder why. I don't even blame his model. I blame his analysis of his own model. Look at this. He gave no primary contest to Harris, which is normally when it's a clear victory in the primary, and not just a lack of primary because the DNC just shoehorned Kamala into the nominated position. That says nothing about if people are actually enthused about Harris or not. His analysis also gives the two economic keys to the Democrats. Look, I agree that economists think Trump's tariff plan will be bad for Americans, but does the average American voter feel good about the economy? How blind does Lichtman have to be to see that the economy was clearly going to be one of the main factors in this election and not in the Democrats' favor? He also gives Trump the uncharismatic challenger marker, leading to a blue key, which is also insane. Trump is, of course, also unlikable to many, but he is undeniably charismatic among a wide swath of people. There's a reason the left calls it a mega cult. A cult needs a charismatic leader, so what are we even talking about here? And we also give major military success to the Dems? Is Biden's track record on Israel seen as positive by the Dems? We're careening toward World War III at the very moment, so I don't know how that key belongs to the Democrat Party. So even looking at Lichtman's own keys, it seems the issue is more in applying the model than the model itself. But Lichtman wants to blame disinformation, which is wild, and Cenk points this out.
You're blaming disinformation. There was disinformation. There was the cats and the dogs nonsense. The points you're making about undocumented immigrants, I agree with, Allan, okay? But that didn't cost the election. The people who are at fault are not other people. It is the candidate, Kamala Harris, the previous candidate, Joe Biden, Democratic Party, Democratic leadership. You guys don't want to admit that they're the problem. They're the cancer in the Democratic Party. The most popular part of the Democratic Party is the populist left. That is the Bernie Sanders 2016 campaign. That part says, let's do super popular economic proposals like paid family leave, higher minimum wage, universal health care, public option. Let's do all of these things. And the establishment goes, no, our corporations don't want that. Our donors don't want that. So we'll just do identity politics.
And when Lichtman won't back down, Cenk reaches into his pocket and takes out his keys to jingle them, taunting Lichtman.
The difference that I bring to the table is a track record of successful prediction based upon how American presidential elections have previously worked as pragmatic decision-making on whether or not the White House party has governed well enough. And then my analysis is based upon what's changed, what's shattered the pattern of 160 years of history. So I have a base for my analysis. I'm not just doing Monday morning quarterbacking. Cenk, you need to learn some manners. Your act is getting really thin.
I mean, brother, I said what was going to go wrong. It did go wrong. I was right. You were wrong in this election, spectacularly so, with your so-called keys. And now you come and tell us not the Monday morning
unlike you, I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong.
This only raises the temperature further, which leads to Cenk really sounding off.
Hey, Allan, you deserve a tall glass of shut up juice, so can you just shut up for a second?
Cenk explains his criticism of Lichtman's keys and election predictions in general in a very astute way. Listen to him.
His keys are based, there's two giant problems with his keys. One is it's irrational to say that any set of factors is definitive. You can't say that it's definitive. And the point I was making to him, remember the original debate was when Biden was still in the race. I'm like, yes, but if the candidate has dementia, then your keys are not relevant because there's a superseding factor. And he's like, no, it doesn't matter. And I said, okay, let's take an extreme example. What if the candidate punched a baby in the face every single day? Would that matter? He said, no, it wouldn't.
Oh, come on.
I mean, come on, right? So like the guy is inherently unreasonable. And the reason why I don't mind pointing this out, one of the reasons is because he's so arrogant and overconfident, and he was selling hopium to a lot of people. And they needed that hopium, but that hopium was, and this is the most important part, leading them in the wrong direction. That they were all going, oh no, the professor says Biden should stay in. The professor says it doesn't matter if the candidate has dementia. The professor says that he's always right, and even if the candidate's brain falls out of his ear in the middle of a debate, or he melts on screen, it still doesn't matter that because of the keys, they'll vote for the blob. But most importantly, a lot of the keys are about incumbency. And he's like, if you pick the incumbent will win. But that's actually a terrible advice in this day and age. He's looking at elections from decades ago when there was no internet, when local politics was king, when you could actually have the party machine have a message that goes only in mainstream media, and mainstream media would then affect the election results. But now because of online media, none of that applies anymore. The incumbents don't have an advantage anymore. They have an albatross around their neck because they're responsible for every policy position that goes wrong. But he did not want to adjust.
So Cenk is right. There are, of course, superseding factors that can turn the keys on their heads anyway. But even if the keys are accurate, how you apply the keys is obviously subjective. Also, what he says about the changing times is utterly true. As Ben Shapiro always says, an election is a referendum on the incumbent. That is the world we now live in, and our predictions need to reflect this. And Kamala wanted to act as the incumbent in certain ways and inherit the popular parts of Joe Biden's administration, while also simultaneously distancing herself from Biden on issues where he was unpopular. And you just can't have it both ways. Well, why is this important? Well, Cenk, I'll let you take this one.
And guys, the number one reason why you need to know all of this is because in the next election cycle, they're gonna come at you with the same BS. And they're gonna tell you, oh, we got keys, we got cars, we got oranges, and we got professors, and we got mainstream media people, and we got Queen Latifah, and we got all these people, and they tell you you should pick the most corporate Democrat, the most establishment one, the one who takes the most corporate money, the most donor money. Oh, don't go populist, trying to appeal to the average man. What a terrible idea. Just trust Allan Lichtman's keys that incumbents and Democratic leaders know best. Well, if they know best, why did they lose to Trump twice? Why was Allan Lichtman so wrong? So it's not just about beating up on poor Allan Lichtman, who of course has to be mortified now at how preposterously wrong he was. It's about making sure that we don't make that same mistake again.
Absolutely right. Harris trusted the money, trusted the mainstream media, trusted Taylor Swift, trusted Hollywood, thinking the Avengers getting together to support Harris would really shift that needle instead of actually being a real human running on human policies and appearing in long-form interviews. Trump did the opposite of what Harris did, and it worked for him, and it honestly shouldn't have. If the Dems had done a proper primary, ran a real candidate who ran on populist policies, they'd have beaten Trump, full stop, at least in my opinion. And so, as Cenk says, they have no one to blame but themselves. It's time for the Dems to do something different. For once, people need to actually listen to Cenk. Unironically, the DNC got exactly the candidates they wanted, and they weren't the candidates the American people wanted.
So we did it your way. It's not like you didn't get your way. You got your beloved Hillary Clinton. You got your beloved Joe Biden. You got your beloved Kamala Harris. You have your beloved Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. Wall-to-wall losses.
So let me know if you agree with Cenk, if you agree with me, where you disagree with me. I'm sure I'll enjoy fighting with all of you in the comments below. Cenk, I'll let you carry us out.
They're not smart. They're not honest. They're not competent. They're not the best of us. They're the worst of us. If you don't change as Democratic voters, This is all you'll ever get. Loss after loss after loss. Eventually, they'll just lose to like an actual literal baboon. And they'll be like, I don't know. I raised $2 billion from the donors. I didn't do anything at all, but I raised so much money. I don't know how the baboon beat us 4 times. Maybe an orangutan. I mean, he kind of is an orangutan, but anyway.